This is one of the strangest One Direction music videos that I've ever seen. Hi, welcome back to Ricky's Rant Rave review, and today we're talking about Dunkirk. If you sit through this video, I apologize for my sniffling and my congested voice because I am sick. I fucking hate allergy season, but you know, let's power through this review. I have a lot of good things to say about this movie. So as the title suggests, the rant comes first, then the rave, and then the review. And what my rants are about this movie is that the timeline's kind of confusing. Like, it starts off on the beach at Dunkirk, and it has a title card that says 1 week, which lets you know that that this part of the movie takes place over 1 week. And then the people on the boats coming across the British Channel to rescue soldiers out of Dunkirk, which takes place over about a day. And then it takes place with these two British air pilots who are trying to rescue soldiers who are trapped on Dunkirk and prevent the German army from bombing them. So essentially, the movie takes place over about 6 to 7 days. But right off the bat, if you're just watching it straight through and you don't know this beforehand, it can be a little confusing. Even though the movie does have title cards to let you know that when everything is taking place, it's very blink and you'll miss it. Because if you look away and miss the title cards, then you're going to miss the fact that this takes place technically over 3 different timelines. So that was very confusing because there would be parts where they would be on the boats and stuff would be happening, and then they'd be on the land, and then it would be nighttime and stuff would be happening, and it was just very confusing for me. And it didn't occur to me until the very end of the movie that it was supposed to be like, oh, this is what happened the week before, and then everything convenes into the last day of the movie, or when the movie takes place, and that was all technically happening at the same time. It's very confusing, and it throws me off, and it threw me off a bit, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who had this complaint when they saw this movie. But other than that, it doesn't kill the experience, but it just makes it confusing until the very end when stuff starts to piece together. Another thing that bothered me was that I couldn't keep up with any characters' names. I don't even think that half of the characters have names. I mean, like, technically they do have names because, like, I went and looked up all the actors, and they were listed as X character. But, like, within the context of the movie, I was like, oh, there's that guy who was on land. There's that guy who's in the plane. There's Harry Styles because he's in this movie. There's Tom Hardy. And, like, this is just more a nitpick, but it just would have been nice to be, like, have characters have names that are explicitly stated than just, like, going along as, like, oh, God, that character is in trouble, but I don't know his name. That's just more of, like, a nitpick with me. It didn't kill the entire movie, but it was just, like, it was just more of a small annoyance for me. And now for the rave. What did I like in this movie? I really, really enjoyed this movie. This might be my favorite Oscar nomination that I've watched so far that isn't Get Out. Aside from, like, Get Out and Shape of Water. This is my top 3 Oscar nominations so far. But I like this, which is rare for me to like movies about war because I am very anti-imperialist. I do not like the military. But this movie focused so much more on its human characters and the fact that this is a story about survival and is telling a historical story as well. And it's not just like, oh, yay, the military, we're all heroes, and here's a gun firing at the enemy. It focuses more on you rooting for the characters and knowing the context of the history that's going on. And so because of the fact that it's so much more a human-oriented story and less of the giant war story, you get a lot of good performances. Tom Hardy is great in this. Cillian Murphy, I have the names written down, but I'm having a hard time reading them. Cillian Murphy as the shell-shocked soldier they pick up in the beginning of the movie is extremely haunting. I don't want to say he's a bad guy, but he's very much an opposing force, and it makes for a very interesting dynamic between him and the sailor and his son and the son's friend George. And then you have Kenneth Branagh, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, as the Navy general, whatever he was supposed to be. He was really good. James Darcy is in this, but I could only keep seeing him as Jarvis because R.I.P. the Agent Carter TV show from ABC a couple years ago. Harry Styles, pretty darn surprising acting debut, if I must say so myself. All the ground soldiers that were in this, they were really, really good. They had really intense performances. They really gave it their all in this, and I really have to applaud all the actors who were in this because they did a top-notch job. And the direction in this, oh my god, this is such a beautiful movie. Like, another reason why I don't like war movies, because the direction is usually, how do I say this, trash. It really sucks sometimes, certain war movies, but this was just really gorgeous. You got a lot of great shots of the beach, of the city of Dunkirk itself, of the ocean, and the color palette is very murky, but not like in a bad way. It's kind of on par with like The Shape of Water, where it's like it's murky for a reason. Whereas in The Shape of Water, it was like, oh, it's murky because it's a sea creature. But in Dunkirk, it's like it's murky because this is a dark, depressing situation, and also it takes place mostly in the air, water, and on a beach. So because of that, it really allows you to submerge into the movie a lot more and kind of just feel like you're actually there. It didn't suck me in as much as The Shape of Water and Black Panther did in terms of like the war that the world in terms of like the world that encompasses the story, but it still just makes it very. You can tell that they knew what they were doing when they chose the color palette and the directions for this movie. Like, it is just stunning to look at. And the last thing that I really liked about this movie was the music. I cannot play any instruments, but I really do enjoy a good movie soundtrack. And the one thing that this movie does well is that it creates most of its tension with the music in the background. Like, it's a war movie. You know that there's going to be bombing. You know that people are going to die. Although this isn't a very bloody movie. It's PG-13, which I didn't know going into it. I thought it was rated R. So it's not bloody. Because I could recommend it to more people. But it relies a lot more on the music and, like, the actual environment to build tension rather than, like, a certain piece of dialogue. Whereas, like, if you have someone who's in a bad situation, they're like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this. That's a Star Wars reference. Didn't even mean to do that. It creates such... The music in this is just so good. And it, like, creeps up on you kind of like a horror movie soundtrack does. Where it's like, you hear it and you know something's about to happen. But, like, there's still characters who are like, oh, who, like, don't know what's about to happen. And so because of that, you feel for them more. You feel like you can, like, kind of feel their tension of, like, knowing that there's an ever-present threat, but you just don't know when that threat is going to be coming. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It really surprised me how much I liked this, because, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of war movies. I don't really like historical dramas, because the ones that are targeted towards me, i.e. a black person, are usually, like, stuff about the civil rights movement and slavery. Not saying those stories should be told, but, like, usually historical stories that are made for black people are about black people suffering. And then you have war movies, which are also about the suffering of people, and those also just usually turn out to be war propaganda movies. So I was really surprised that I came away liking it as much as I did. So I would give this a solid 4.5 out of 5, because the timeline's kind of confusing in the beginning, and it can take you a minute to catch up. It is hard to keep up with the characters sometimes. The dialogue, there's, like, dialogue in this, but it's not like it's outstanding. It's just more like people talking about doing their job or getting to a certain place. And so there's no huge, big motivational speech in this, which I liked, because it made it feel a lot more real. It's like no one's going to be standing on a beach giving some giant motivational speech when Nazis are trying to bomb them every 20 minutes. So I would recommend this if you're a fan of historical films, if you're a fan of war films, if you want to know more about, like, I don't know, if you just like a good drama with good performances, watch this movie. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, it's not super long. It's only about an hour, 45 minutes, like, not including the credits. And so, yeah, solid 4.5 out of 5. I'll be back with The Darkest Hour probably on Monday, because I'm sick. I don't have the energy to put up another video this week. I'm tired. You can probably hear me how awful I sound. But yeah, Darkest Hour will be up between either Friday or Sunday, and if not, then Monday at the latest. And then next week, we're getting down to the last 3 with 3 Billboards, The Post, and Get Out. See you around.